Hello everyone, I'm Buddy here at House of Props. Well, we're at that holiday season again, and I don't know about you, but it is flying by for me. As many of you know, I like to give away a free file as a thank you for your support of this channel over the past year, and this year I made you this Cyberpunk Stinger knife. It consists of 2 pieces, and is super easy to assemble, finish, and paint. So let's head to the shop, and I'll show you the process to get started. Here are the 2 files printed. I used PLA, and the print settings I used are below in the description. I'm going to start sanding them with a 180 grit pad on my hand sander. It always works better if you can sand against the print grain, and when using a sander like this, you want to keep it moving, because if you stay in one spot for too long, it'll start to melt the plastic. After that, I switched to some 220 and sand it again by hand. The sander is great to remove the initial layer of print lines, but I like to switch to hand sanding after that because it's less likely I can generate enough friction to cause warping, and it also allows any heat generated from the sander to dissipate. So now the 2 pieces can be attached to each other, and for the supports between the 2, I'm using 1-inch long pieces of 1/8 inch dowel. In my case, I'm using pieces of bamboo skewers. Squeeze some CA glue into the small holes on the grip and press the dowel in, then do the exact same for the other hole. The blade can be aligned to the dowels, but before pressing them together, I squeeze CA glue onto the flat surface of the grip and then firmly press the 2 together. Any glue that squeezes out, I wipe away with a scrap piece of EVA foam, which works great for this. And to cure the glue instantly, I use a couple of drops of zip kicker. This way I can continue without having to wait for the glue to dry. Next, I'm using this spot putty to fill the seam between the blade and the grip. I always apply it on thick because it does shrink when it dries and seams can open back up. While I finish this, I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. It's completely free to you and will help it grow. Plus, if you click the notification bell, you can customize your notifications so you never miss a project. Thank you! Once the putty is dry, which takes about 30 minutes, I smooth it with some 180 grit. I want to make sure the seam stays filled and any unevenness in the putty is smoothed away. Then I take a mixture of the spot putty and acetone and brush this onto the entire surface of the knife. This will help fill in any remaining print lines and any sanding lines. When it dries, it can be smoothed with some 220. The process does make a mess, which is why I always like to put down a scrap piece of paper to catch the debris. This process will remove a bulk of the mixture, but you'll notice that it has filled in some very fine lines which were undetectable before. After all the dust and debris has been wiped off the surface, I'm going to spray the knife with this 2-in-1 filler and sandable primer. This will act as a primer layer for the paint, but what makes it great is it'll help fill in any unevenness which still may be lurking around, and with it being sandable, it means it can be polished up to a glass-like finish. I sprayed the knife twice and let it dry for 30 minutes between coats. After the second coat has fully dried, I begin smoothing the surface by wet sanding it with some 400 grit sandpaper. To wet sand, you can simply just dip the paper into the water and then sand the surface of your object. You'll notice how it starts to smooth the primer and you'll feel it. It does create a sludge, so wipe it away as you go to check your progress. Alright, all the sludge has been wiped away and the knife is looking pretty clean and smooth, but I want to make the blade look even more realistic. So I'm going to wet sand only the blade again this time with some 1000 grit sandpaper. Okay, so now I'm finished with sanding. The grip is clean and the blade feels like silk, and since the knife is dry from all the wet sanding, I'll base it with a gloss black. Gloss paints have more of a tendency to run, so I'll build up thin layers to get full coverage. Once coated, the knife is looking like this, so nice and shiny. That's where all the sanding pays off. Now, the black is acting as a base, which means the knife can now be sprayed with a metallic silver. Same principle of building up thin layers, and the black base really makes metallics pop. I want the scales on the grip to look different than the metallic bits, so I airbrush them with a flat black. I've masked off some areas, but I'll just wipe off other areas where I don't want it. Interestingly, I had this texture naturally occur as the paint was sitting. The only thing I can think is I had the paint just a tad too thin, and that combined with the really smooth surface caused this effect. I've never had this happen before, but I really like it and I'm gonna keep it. I'm going to give the scales some brown carbon fiber detailing, and to achieve this technique I use one of these jar openers with an airbrush. By placing the pad over the handle and spraying it with a dark brown, it leaves behind this great pattern. Now, to make it look like carbon fiber, I repeat the process with a medium or lighter brown, but this time the pad is slightly offset from the original dark pattern, and when peeled away, you are left with a simple carbon fiber paint detail. I want to add a little bit of aging to the knife, so I take a black, thin it with some water, and to place it I'm using a Q-tip. If you've ever watched any of my other videos, you'll know I love to age my pieces, and I'm really having to fight the urge to overdo it. I use the paper towel to dab and blend the paint so it looks more natural and random. Then I repeat the process with the brown used on the grip, not a lot, just a little to add some variation. And like that, the stinger is finished. This knife reminds me a lot of a Bowie knife, but like a futuristic version. As you saw, the assembly and the painting were very straightforward and not complicated in order to achieve this iconic cyberpunk knife. It feels great in the hand and can easily be scaled up if you want to make it larger. Again, I have to say, I'm really happy with the accident with the black. It just goes to show that sometimes there are happy accidents. Well everyone, that's it for this build. If you want to make one, the link to the files is in the description. Please give this video a thumbs up, share it with all your friends and family, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you next time. Happy holidays everyone, and thank you again. And remember, if you are building any of my builds or using any of my templates, feel free and tag me at House of Props on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, because I would really like to see your fantastic work. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.